If Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker wins a third term in November of 2026, he'll be in office during the presidential election cycle of 2028, and still speculated he may jump into that race. But who's going to be the lieutenant governor who could possibly take over the job of Illinois governor if Pritzker wins the presidency in 2028? All hypothetical, all speculation, but still, these are some of the conversations and things that the governor's being asked about. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. The governor's been hit with questions about whether he's going to run for president for years now. It happened all throughout the 2022 gubernatorial election, and even before that, you saw the governor taking an approach to get more into the national spotlight, and he was even considered as a vice presidential candidate for the Democrats. He was in the final running for that, but obviously the Democrats in 2024 went with Tim Walz to run with Kamala Harris. Of course, that's not who won the presidency. The presidency now is with Trump, and Republicans have Congress with the big, beautiful bill. Apparently, are going to have a vote today. That's another conversation for another day. But anyways, just current news here, right? So where we're at. So the governor announced last week he's going to run for a third term for Illinois governor, but his lieutenant governor, Juliana Stratton, back in April announced that she was going to run for the U.S. Senate seat that U.S. Senator Dick Durbin is leaving. He says he's not running for re-election, so that opened up that seat. Stratton aiming for that, and that means she can't be Governor Pritzker's running mate. So who is going to be the running mate? The governor yesterday, at an unrelated event, he was asked about, hey, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, one of the key, things that you had with her was she was a black woman, and diversity, and how important is diversity. Is that a priority with whoever the next lieutenant governor may be? Here is the governor from yesterday up in Chicago.
Look, the number one qualification is, can you do the job of being governor? Because if you're lieutenant governor, that may come to you. So that's the number one thing that I think about. The second thing I think about is the person who I might choose for lieutenant governor somebody who has a heart for all the people of Illinois, not just some or some specific segment of the population, because we have a big, diverse state. And the people who live in Henry County, people who live in Union County, or in places like Effingham or Rockford or Chicago, have different opinions about things. They may come from different parties, but when you become governor of the state of Illinois, you represent all of them.
So the governor saying whoever is the lieutenant governor, the job may come to you. And that's, again, also kind of fueling speculation as to what the governor's motives are. He was asked about it Thursday in Chicago when he announced. Down in Springfield, he was asked about it later on in the day Thursday. Interesting question here from a reporter about the experience that he had as being a consideration for the Democrats' VP pick. Did that add to what his motivations are seeking a third term for Illinois governor?
Governor, last year you were vetted for the vice presidency job. That's something very few American politicians have gotten to experience. How did that experience influence the decisions you've made about your political career since then, and any decisions you'd make in the future?
I don't know if that affected decisions that I've made about my own future. I was flattered to be considered. Obviously there were some group of people who felt like I would make a good vice president, and that I had the ability to take over as president if that should happen. So I'm flattered by that, but it hasn't really affected the way I think about my own future.
Did it affect, I guess, anything that you realize what you bring to the table from that experience? Did it change kind of how you view just what you're bringing to the Democrat Party?
Well, they didn't go to the individual potential candidates for vice president and say, you know why we're going to talk to you, and then list a whole bunch of things. So it isn't like I learned something new about how people view me or something like that. But obviously being considered for vice president is enormously flattering. It's a challenging endeavor to go through that vetting, and it seemed to go well. I made it to the finals, so I really, it's not something I think about much anymore. But it was, to even be considered. I think about when I ran for governor in the first place in 2018, 2017, 18. never could have imagined anybody would talk about me as the potential vice presidential nominee or as a candidate for president of the United States. So I think I will say that all of that is good for the people of Illinois in this way. Having the state of Illinois' leaders viewed as capable and competent and potentially able to run the entire country, and being talked about in that way allows us to, I think, get more for the people of Illinois, because there's an understanding that, you know, maybe in Illinois we're doing the right things, and maybe in Illinois we have leaders that can competently execute on what states really need.
Now, of course, Republicans don't think the state's being ran competently. Republicans point to the budget that takes effect today as the most expensive spending plan with increased spending over, several years during the Pritzker's administration. That's included with, tax increases and the like. So you got the pension debt that's still $140 billion, hasn't really changed much over the past 10 years. You've got the ongoing issues of ethical concerns within the legislature. Has the governor spoken out about that enough? You've got a whole host of other things, from the non-citizen sanctuary policies in the state of Illinois to the Safety Act and the end of cash bail. And as we talked about in the last segment, the gun ban challenges. You've got the COVID history with the governor essentially ruling the state by executive order over the span of, 2.5 years it felt, with very, very strong executive orders, down to the point where it was like you can't have more than 3 people on a boat outside. And the issue of closing churches and schools and businesses and restricting economic activity. Anyways, we can do an entire segment about all that. But the governor reflecting on having the possibility of being the vice president for Kamala Harris, and how that's kind of what he's saying when it comes to the lieutenant governor position. But the governor was asked also, why is it so important to have a lieutenant governor that could run? Is there something that's going to keep Pritzker from serving out all 4 terms of the governorship if he gets it in 2026?
I don't know. I feel like I'm in decent health. So my doctor says so. So I hope that wouldn't be a reason. And I don't know. Whatever the odds are that a lieutenant governor, you could probably look back in the history of since 1818 when we became a state, of lieutenant governors stepping in. So I don't know what those odds are, but it's happened a few times, but not too terribly often.
So there's the governor talking about the need for a lieutenant governor who can jump in to do the job, and how he feels that his health's fine. So, but I mean, the chances of stuff happening, there are chances it could happen. I guess we'll wait and see. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here for Illinois in Focus Daily, and get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com.